Well, hey, North Tarrant Church. Good morning. My name is Scott Johnson. I'm the lead pastor here at North Tarrant Church. And we're so delighted that you've chosen to join us this morning. If this is your first time here, would you do me a favor? Would you drop in the comments and just let us know who you are, where you're watching from? In the comments, you should see a link that you can click on to get more information, or you can click on to give us a little bit more information about you so we can keep you posted on what is to come, on what our next steps are, on how we are proceeding in the midst of this COVID world we live in. But you know, one of the things I found in the midst of this, of the last 20 weeks is when we say you can't grow spiritually unless you connect relationally. I've seen it to be true. I've seen where friends and family members have shared with me that the saving grace, the thing that's helped them through the tragedy, the sorrows, the frustrations of the last several weeks has been their community group. The thing that's helped them has been a text message from one of their leaders, inspiring them, reminding them that they can make it, reminding them that life is bigger than the circumstances at hand. You see, I genuinely believe that circles are better than rows. And mainly I believe that because I've seen it with my own life. Alden and I, from the beginning of our group life, we found that having people in your corner can help you. It can encourage you. It can inspire you to grow in your confidence in God and your love for other people. And it can remind you when tragedy strikes, when struggles find you, it can be a reminder that God is worthy of being trusted, that we can put our confidence in Him even when things seem so out of the ordinary. So, I want to encourage you. Today, we're beginning a new series entitled Connect. And we bought into this idea of becoming a partner of North Point. Not because of the music they play and not because of the way that Andy Stanley communicates, but because from the top down, North Point has put forward a remarkable strategy at connecting adults into community. And it starts with Andy. And so as we launch into the month of August, as we launch into this idea of creating community, of connecting adults, of connecting people into relationships, I thought it would be an incredible opportunity for us to hear from Andy as to why he is so passionate about small groups. And our prayer is that it would inspire you that even as a lead pastor of thousands, even as an incredible orator, even as Andy is, even for him, small groups are a necessity. And for me, and for many of you, you've seen the value of small groups as well. So without further ado, I want to hand it over to Andy as he gets the chance to share with us why he's so passionate about creating small groups. Andy, take it away.
This is so personal for us. We're lifers. We're in this for good, but it may not be why you think. And let me tell you real quick why we're not lifers. First of all, I don't love group because I learn so much, okay? And this is one of the reasons some of you aren't in a group, because you go, I went in a group, I didn't learn anything. I don't think I've ever learned anything in a small group. I don't sit in a small group and go, Frank, I have never seen that in the scriptures before. That's awesome. You know, I mean, the curriculum, most curriculums are okay, even ours. I mean, you know, curriculums are curriculums. So I don't love group because I come out every week going, that was so life-changing. It's not, because I learned so much. I'm not a lifer because I love to connect with new people. Okay, I'm a bit of an introvert. I'm good on stage, but after stage, I don't really want to talk to you. In fact, I'd rather talk to all of you than one of you, just to be really honest, okay? Single people scare me. Thousands of people, I'm fine with, okay? So I don't really like to connect. I mean, that's hard for me. I'm not super social, so I don't like group because I get to meet new people every 2 years. In fact, now I'm at the stage of life, like many of you, where I can't remember names. Is it just terrible? And it was so wonderful for a while because I had Sandra. And, we'd walk in, after you're married a long time, you just know the cues. We walk in and I'd look over and look at her. She'd say, that's Frances and her husband. And, oh God, so she was, she had my back. She's my wing woman, when it comes to names. And now she didn't know anybody's name either. It's awful. It's awful. We walk in and I look and she looks at me and we both have no clue. We know where we met them. We know about their kids. In fact, it gets so bad after a while for those of you who are younger, you can't remember anything. And so, eventually, we've talked about this, we're working on it. Eventually, we're probably gonna have entire conversations with no nouns. Where you say, hey, today I was over at the, and I saw, and they ask you if we could, if you've been married a long time, you fill in the blank. So anyway, the whole thing about connecting with new people, that, there's some of you just can't get enough of that. It's not good. Okay, so it's not that. And the other reason that I'm not a lifer, it's not because I'm expected to participate. Now, this is why this is important. Our first group was not part of a church program. We were part of a church that didn't have groups. We're not committed to groups because, you're the pastor and you got to be a good example. I think that's important. And if you're a senior pastor and if you're going to do groups, you need to be in a group. Craig Groeschel, my good friend, we do the one-day conferences together, and many of you know Craig at Life Church. I've heard him talk many times in our conferences where he would say, I kept pushing groups, and then it dawned on me one day, he said, my wife and I, we're not even in a group. So, a little bit of hypocrisy there. So he talked about the difference it made in their local churches when he and Amy decided, it's not just good for everybody else. We've got to find a way to participate. So it's not just, something I feel like I'm supposed to do. And to be honest, I don't look forward to every Monday night or Wednesday night when we have group. In fact, just between us, my favorite group nights are the ones that would get canceled at the last minute. Yeah, we got one guy over here applauding. It's like, I'd be on my way home. I love group and I love the people, but, we're all busy and, Sandra call, hey, the so-and-sos can't be there and the so-and-sos can't be there. And so we've decided not to meet tonight. And I would try to sound sorrowful, like, but it's like a free night, yes, So I get credit for being in a group, but I don't have to go. It's awesome, Okay, so I'm being honest, I totally get that thing. In fact, about 3 weeks ago, during one of the nights of the debate, we had our group was planned, and then, the debate gets planned. It's the same night as the debate. So I'm thinking, nobody's gonna wanna do group tonight. Nobody wants to miss the debate, right? So I start, how you start sending out this kind of probing text like, the debate's on tonight, and I'm not sure we should all get together. And you probably want to be with your kids. And nobody wanted to miss group but me and Sandra. So we went, and it was awesome. So anyway, it's not like, oh my gosh, I can't wait. Part of it, you just go. But here's the principle, and you know this. This is so important. Consistent deposits over time result in wonderful things, whether it's with your health, your exercise, the way you eat, the people you spend time with, spending time with your wife, date night, being at your kids' ball games. It's consistent deposits over time that make a difference. And as I look back over these 20 years, I can't imagine how much poorer I would be relationally and spiritually if suddenly all those 2-hour Monday night deposits over these 20 years were suddenly sucked out of my life, and all those relationships were sucked out of my life. Because if that were the case and you were to say to me, well, Andy, what did you do all those Monday nights for 20 years? I would have no answer. Because random events, they have no cumulative value, but it's those weekly deposits that have cumulative value at the end of the process. So again, I'm so grateful, and we're in for life. But those are kind of the facetious reasons we're not in. Let me real quickly tell you why for us personally, this is a lifestyle. We would do this whether it was a part of a local church or not, real quickly. The first one is this. The group provides a relational first step for disconnected, new, or non-believers for us. The group provides a relational first step. And what I mean by that is this. As we meet people in the community and we're thinking, oh, we got to get them connected. The easiest place for us to connect new Christians, non-Christians, or people that we meet in the community is group. And so, in a big church like this, you can invite them to church and they sit in rows and they may see somebody they meet and they meet some of their, kids' friends in the hallways or something. But in terms of connection, to be in a small group that's committed to multiplying, where you have a covenant and you have a time frame, and hey, on January or whatever, we're starting a new group, to have an automatic place to invite people and to invite them through a relationship is absolutely incredible. It's the easiest way to invite people into a steady plotting kind of relationship. And you know what this is like. You have friends who aren't Christians, or you meet people and they're kind of marginal Christians, or you don't know, and it's so difficult to start a conversation, hey, talk about Jesus, how do you kind of get into that? And what we've found is this. Even with unbelievers or people you don't even know about, we've invited them to group, and now we have a weekly or a 3 times a month opportunity to bring up the subject of spiritual things, because they're in a context with other believers where that's what we're talking about. And we've seen so many incredible things. Several years ago, there was a couple, again, connected to one of our kids' baseball teams, and they were completely unchurched. I mean, just, you sit on the bleachers with families, week after week after week, tournament baseball, and you learn everything. And we learned they were both brought up in Catholic churches, but when they were both children, unbeknownst to each other family, didn't know each other growing up, both of their families had a really bad experience in the church and quit going. So after about 6 or 7 years old, they never went to church ever. They would consider themselves Catholic, but they just did not grow up going to church. Grew up, high school, college, met, got married. They were both accountants, professional people, wonderful people. We liked them so much and just enjoyed being with them. But Zippo Church, and they heard I was a pastor. They'd never heard of our church, never been to our church. And so Sandra and I, we prayed about it and sort of mustered up all this courage, because we think people are going to go, what? You want us to be in a group? It's never like that. We told them we meet with these couples, and you don't have to come to our church to be a part of this, but we're about to start a new curriculum on whatever. And they're like, we'd love to do that. You're always shocked, like, really? But it's like 3 times a month, okay? And it's like 2 hours, gonna be new people there. It's like, really? So anyway, it was so awesome. So it was in the fall. We started this group in the fall, and they joined our group, and 2 or 3 weeks in, Jeff says to me, Andy, is your church a pretty big church? I said, yes, it's a pretty big church. He's like, because I've run into other people who go there. I said, yeah. We never invited them to church. And I told the rest of the couples in our group, I said, now look, don't gang tackle them, okay? They're in group, they're not in our church. So let's just, play nice and play fair. And the first night we were together, Dave Wills, one of our elders, was leading the group that night. And we, just as an icebreaker, they decided to do this Bible knowledge quiz just for fun. And fortunately, he divided us up into groups of 2, and he passed out these questions, and we had to answer these questions, just an icebreaker. And the first question was something about David and Goliath. And Jeff, my buddy we invited, was in my group, the 2 of us. And we went over I remember we're sitting on the edge of the couch, going through this thing. And he looked at me and he said this, he said, Andy, I gotta be honest. He said, I don't know the story of David and Goliath. He said, for me, David and Goliath is like a business analogy. Like, there's the little company and the big company. He said, I didn't even know that was in the Bible. So this guy's starting at zip in terms of Bible knowledge and willing to admit it. And he's in small group with the pastor. How wonderful is that? So we helped him get their first Bible, pull the cellophane off the Bible. And she put tabs in her so she could find the books. And it was just so precious. And Christmas rolled around. We're having a big Christmas thing we used to do. And we said, hey, because what we would do, and we do this strategically, we encourage groups to attend events at the church as a group. So we said, hey, we're at this Christmas thing. The whole group's going. Do you want to go? So their first time in our church building was a Christmas event. And they came with us and they met all these people. They saw some people they knew from the community. And sort of diplomatically and gently, we said, we do this every Sunday, duh, and they started coming to our church and got very, very involved, and it was incredible. Time goes by. And they moved to Nashville. How many, was it 2 or 3 years, or I can't remember, short time, maybe 1 year later? Yeah, so a year later he gets transferred, and this is so emotional for me to tell. I'm so sorry. I should get Sandra up here. You can cry with me. And so Sandra, so they were leaving town, so Kelly took Sandra out to, okay, yeah, they were with us for 3 years. Okay, but this is when they were leaving. She took you out to lunch, yeah. And so they were saying their goodbyes over lunch. They'd been in our group for a couple years in the church. Sorry. And Sandra said, Kelly, I got to tell you something. And Kelly was saying, thank you for inviting us to the group. It's been so great. And, it's helped us so much in our faith. And thank you for inviting the church. And church has been so good for our kids, just going on and on and on, thanking us. And Kelly, leans across the table and took Sandra by the hand. And no, I didn't get to that part yet. And Sandra said, well, I got to tell you something. She said, Kelly, we almost didn't invite you to be in our group. She said, honestly, Andy and I were so worried and scared about what you would think, because you're not in church. We almost didn't invite you. And she reached across the table and took Sandra by the hand and said, did she say, be bold? Yeah, she said, be bold. Be bold. Thank you for inviting us. And in that moment, it was just sort of this epiphany of how many other people are floating around in our lives in the community whose lives would be so much richer if they're in group, if we would just create an environment, a first step to invite them into, not to big church, but to group. And she just looked at Sandra and said, basically she was saying, we can't imagine where we would have been if you hadn't invited us to your group. So that just, again, it's just in a relational first step for us as a couple. The other reason that I absolutely love group and that we're lifers is this. In group, because of the way we do group, and so many of you follow our model or similar model, you may have been doing it longer than us, I'm faced with a variety of faith journeys that never fail to build my faith, honestly. I'm faced because you know how it is, you sort of do life with the same, not just the same people, you sort of do life with the same kind of people. And one of the things that I would love about starting a new group is that not that I got to meet new people. I mean, we've had so many groups where we put on name tags because we did not know these people till they walked into our house, okay? We were very open in that way. But when we would tell our stories, because you meet people and you draw conclusions real quick and you size them up real quick, and we tend to judge too quickly, or maybe that's just me. And then people tell their stories. And you hear their stories, and suddenly your opinion totally changes. And to sit in our living room or sit in other people's living rooms and to hear faith journeys where you sit and you think, many times I've thought, why in the world am I the pastor? This man and his wife what they've been through, job loss and, dealing with infertility and dealing with the loss of children and dealing with alienation from parents. And there's the couple we've done 2 or 3 rounds of group with them who have 2 visually impaired children. And every time we start a new group and they're in our group, we all tell our story. And all 3 times they've told their story about deciding, do we have this child or not? They knew there were going to be issues. And then to go through it 2 times with 2 different children and to listen to how they prayed and how they trusted God. Every single time I feel like a faith, little midget compared to their extraordinary faith and how they've trusted God. So for me, it forces me in a good way, as it does all of us, into people's lives we would not normally be into, and we're confronted with the daily grind, not the big, bold worship song, sermon faith, but the daily, here's how I deal with this. Here's how we deal with blended families. We had a couple in our church, in one of our groups, it was that Starting Point group that we took on, who had one of the most difficult blended family situations imaginable. And so every week it was like, well, what happened this week? And it was court cases and money and exes. And it's just families, I don't know if they ever blend, but they were doing as good a job as possible. But just peering into their life and how faith and God manifested itself in the daily rhythm of those difficult situations. You just walk away with bigger faith. You think, God, if you can do that, you can do anything. If you can sustain them through that, God, you can sustain me through anything. The other reason that we absolutely love group, and I'll try to keep this short because this is one of my favorites, our children witness firsthand the importance of community. Now, our kids are 20, 18, and 16 now. And so since they were born, Since they were born, because we were pregnant in all three groups. In fact, I was trying to figure out how to say this, and I kept saying we had our kids in groups, or we were in groups when we had our kids, but that sounds like in the living room. Okay, so it wasn't that, but we went through all three pregnancies while we were in a community group. And what I absolutely love is year after year after year after year, telling our kids, well, tonight our group's coming over, so y'all need to stay up in your room, do your homework, or make sure you put yourself to bed. Don't come down here and don't bother us. This is group. And they would walk across the little balcony in our home and see us sitting in a circle with adults. And they saw that for mommy and daddy, this is a priority every single week, week after week after week, month after month, year after year. Mom and dad make it a priority to be in a circle. It's not just about dad being the preacher. It's about this circle and these people. And then we would tell them stories of what's going on in so-and-so's life and so-and-so's life. And what that has done, and you're gonna hear all about this, and many of you are way down the road with this. For our kids, it planted an image, it planted a component, a necessary component of Christianity that I don't know how they get otherwise. Because they didn't just hear about it, and it wasn't just a class that we send them into, it's something they saw us do. So consequently, our kids don't know any better than to think they're supposed to lead small groups. And so as soon as, and you'll hear about student impact if you haven't already, and so consequently, as soon as our kids are old enough in our church, we immediately put them into leadership in small groups with kids who are younger than them. They don't know they don't think they have to know the whole Bible. They don't think they have to be more spiritual. They just think everybody needs to be in a group, and as soon as you're ready, you need to lead a group. Everybody needs to be in a group, and as soon as you're ready, or before you're ready, you need to lead a group. One quick story. When Andrew, my oldest, was entering 10th grade, I was driving him to school, never forget, first day of 10th grade. And the way the school situation is, there's a road, and on one side's the middle school, on the other side's the high school. So I'm driving him to school in typical 10th grade. He's over there, with his phone, but it's okay. So he's texting, he's not even supposed to have his phone at school, but he's got his phone at school. So preacher's kid. So we're going to school, and I'm chatting with him, and he's kind of halfway paying attention. So we're, the traffic, slows down, and we're between the two schools. And you can always tell the ninth graders, first day of high school. They are awkward. It's just, they're so weird. They don't even look like they should be there. They should be on that other school. So I'm looking at these kind of awkward ninth graders, thinking back, it was just a year ago, I was dropping Andrew off for the first time in high school, and he was one of those really awkward high school kids. It was so funny when I dropped him off his first day of high school. I gotta make fun of my son for a second. He's got his backpack on, he's so scared, because it's, big school, and he's walking, and he gets to the stairs, and there's a crowd of kids, and he stopped walking, and his arms kept moving. And I'm sitting in my car going, oh, this isn't gonna be good. He's just so nervous. I'm a movie, So anyway, so I'm remembering that. Now he's in the 10th grade. He's kind of older and bigger. And so I'm saying, Andrew, aren't you glad you're not in the ninth grade? Remember how nervous you were in the ninth grade? Aren't you glad that you're not ninth grade? And here's what he said. He said, I'll tell you who's really nervous. I said, who? He said, quote, my sixth graders. My sixth graders. And he pointed over to Northwestern Middle School. He said, I've been texting them this morning to encourage them, telling them I'm praying for them. And I'm thinking, if I just died and went to heaven right now, God, look what you've done. That there was at the 10th grade, think about yourself, don't think of yourself in 10th grade. Yeah, did you have some sixth graders you were pouring into? Are you kidding? And so there he is texting, encouraging his sixth graders. He's more, anyway. Then my other favorite group story with my kids is one Saturday night, my mom was over and she had a seizure in our home. It was horrible, horrible, horrible. The ambulance, 911, I thought she was having a stroke. It was terrible. And so fortunately, Clay was preaching that Sunday morning here, and I wasn't preaching. So the good news was I didn't have to get up and preach. And so we were up till like 2 a.m, hospital, that whole thing. The kids were up. And so I'm thinking, okay, good news is I don't have to preach tomorrow. The Stanley family is sleeping in. Okay, it's Sunday morning, I don't have to be here. And so Sandra and I don't know, like 8:30, whatever time it was, you know how when you're kind of asleep, you can tell when people are staring at you. So you look up, it's usually your kids, okay? And we wake up and we look at the door, and there's all 3 of our kids dressed and ready for church. And we're like, what are y'all doing? Dad, Andrew was driving by then. Dad, we're going on because we didn't want to miss our small groups. Andrew and Garrett were leading them, and Allie didn't want to miss the one that was for her age group. And so I said, okay, see ya, have a nice time at church. True story. They got in the car and went to church, and I'm a preacher's kid, so this is like bigger than life. And I said, I think we just witnessed a miracle. They didn't even have to go. Look at us, we're still laying in bed and we're just, bleary doing, because there's a sense of accountability to their group. I'll tell you where that starts. It starts right here. And I wouldn't give anything just for the fact that no matter what they do in their life, and they may wander, they're just so normal kids, they're so normal, don't get the wrong idea. But here's what they know. They will never doubt the fact that mommy and daddy think this is a priority. And it's not just about big church. It's about circles, not just rows. And then the last thing, and this is kind of maybe the major one, I don't know, is that we really think life change happens within the context of relationships. I love to preach and I love to get people to stand up and raise their hand, throw their stick in the fire and sing Kumbaya and have a liver quiver and we cry. And I love all that and give our money and it's, and I'll never be the same, pastor. I love all that. And I think God does wonderful things in rows. But I think life change happens within the context of relationships. And not just any relationship, structured relationship. Structured, you're not going anywhere relationships. Structured, why haven't you been here the past 2 weeks relationship. Structured, now you told us what you were gonna do, did you do it? Relationship. There is something so powerful about structured, in your face, doing life together. Let's pray together. Hey, how did it go? Why didn't you? Are you gonna do anything with this? I'm not sure I can deal with that. There's something so powerful about those relationships that the actual life change, the actual decisions that stick, the actual decisions where people actually follow through are always gonna be within the context of some kind of relationship. And the thing is this, in my experience, every time we've started a new group, there's always been some guy that when, I met him, I thought, well, I'm not connecting with him. And it's usually like the salesman, personality. And some of you are that way. It's like, hey man, how you doing? You're just so extroverted, I could sell anything. And so good to see you. And I'm just so excited. I'm like, I want to go to my room. Oh gosh, it's like that personality. But you know what? See, I run from those guys. I just want to shrink. I don't want to say anything. And you know what? Where else can I allow, and where else does God get an opportunity to use those people in my life? Because in group, I can't escape, and that's a good thing. I think the worst day in Peter's life, the worst day in the Apostle Peter's life is the day Jesus looked over his shoulder, made eye contact with Peter, winked, then turned back and said, Matthew, follow me. Tax collector. See how this goes. Follow me. And Peter's going, he's not going to follow you. And Matthew got up. And all the rest of the disciples said, seriously? A tax collector is joining the group? Really? And we're going where? Oh, to his house. Oh, that's wonderful. Okay. People already think we're crazy. Now we're going to Matthew's house and have a party. And of course, they're all standing outside with the Pharisees going, I don't know either, So anyway, but I think, it was probably the worst day in Peter's life. But don't you think Jesus kind of did that on purpose? See, I think something happens here. In fact, you've seen it in your church. We see it all the time. People end up in group together, and a year later, 18 months later, they say, we can't believe we ended up in the same group. I can't believe at first I wasn't so sure, or maybe immediately there was a connection, but this is a lifelong connection, and it would have never happened casually. It would have never happened randomly. There was something about the structure that allowed God to do something to me through the structure of these relationships. It may have never happened any other way. So that's why we're lifers. That's why we're in. That's why it's not a program around here. It's who we are. It's what we do.
For Andy, he says he's a group lifer because he's seen the value of groups. There's several people in our church that have seen the value of groups. Alden and I are one. I know in the midst of everything that's going on, I've heard from several couples within our church that they have been hit with a difficult chapter, a difficult season in the life of the last several weeks. And in the midst of that, they've seen their small group rise up, their small group leader lead out and encourage them and remind them that God is still in control. You see, small groups are such a valuable component for our spiritual development because it's in small groups, it's in community that we can really experience what it means to follow after Jesus. So I want to invite you I want to encourage you. Next week, and then the following week, and then the following week, we are going to have a couple of test drives, if you will. We're going to have community groups meeting in different outdoor environments, and they're open to anybody. If you know somebody that is interested in test driving community, or maybe you're that one that you've heard us talk about community groups before, but you've never really had the opportunity to say yes. Well, you can look on our website at northtarrant.org and see several different locations and opportunities of small groups that are going to be meeting in the month of August. And it's non-committal. It's just an opportunity for you to come, hang out in a park, meet other adults, sit in a socially distant reality. And in some of those parks, we're actually going to have childcare available on site. But the reason we're doing this is because we now more than ever see that community is critical. We see that you can't grow spiritually unless you connect relationally. And to truly follow after Jesus, it involves connecting with Jesus. And so we want to create environments for you to do just that. Now, as we close our morning, I want to encourage you, if you'd go to our website, northtarrant.org, you can find a listing of several of the short groups that we're going to be putting together in August. And you can also find a little bit more about what our groups look like. And on our website, you can find more information about our church. But before we go, I've invited our band to sing a couple of songs, to sing songs that remind us of how we build our life, to sing songs that remind us of what we need to do as we move forward. You see, I've always believed, and I've seen it to be true, that the songs we sing truly do affect the lives we lead. It's the songs that we put into our mind and we allow to resonate within our heart that really does help affect the way we lead our life now more than ever. God, thank you so much for the fact that you're a big God. God, thank you for creating us as relational beings. Father, thank you for providing community around us. And God, I pray that today, that you would allow us, Father, to see and to experience and to say yes to community. God, we need you now more than ever. God, we love you, and we are grateful for the fact that you gave your Son on our behalf. Father, I pray that simple reminder would spur us on, Father, to be individuals that follow after you. And collectively, may we spur one another on, Father, to live lives that reflect your incredible example. God, we love you and we thank you. It's in Jesus' name that I pray. Amen.
You've overcome this world with made my fight your own. Lift my eyes and throw fears out into the night. 'Cause even when the world came, even when the fight goes, even when the wars wait, I'll take heart. I know you are greater, wherever you are Savior, I will sing your praise with all that I have, with all that I am, Lord. I'll stare down the waves, 'cause you own the time. I still my soul and know you wait for me on waters wide, where faith walks above the storm. Even when the world craves, even when the fight calls, even when the wars wage, take heart. I know you are greater, wherever you are Savior, I will sing your praise with all that I have, with all that I am, Lord. With fire and not be burned. Pray in the fire and watch it turn. Jesus, my life, I give it all to you. I won't let the storm weather my heart. I won't let the darkness beat me down. Jesus, the night, my hope alive in you. I'll walk through the fire and not be burned. Bring in the fire and watch it turn. Jesus, my life, I give it all to you. Even when the world caved, even when the fire goes, even when the wars wage, I'll take heart. I know you were greater, wherever you were Savior, I will sing your praise. With all that I am, with all that I have, Lord. With all that I have, with all that I have, Lord. Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Won't let the storm weather my heart. I won't let the darkness beat me down. Singing the night, my hope alive in you. I'll walk through the fire and not be burned. Pray in the fire and watch it turn. Jesus, my life, I give it all to you. When darkness tries to roll over my bones, when sorrow comes to steal the joy I own, when brokenness and pain is all I know, no, I won't be shaken, no, I won't be shaken. 'Cause my fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love.
thank you guys so much for leading us in our singing today. Hey, if this is your first time here, I would encourage you, go check out our website. If you have any questions about who we are as a church, why we do what we do, or what our next steps are, northtarrant.org is a great first step. And let us know if you'll fill out the information on the website. It'd be a great way for us to be able to keep you in the loop as to what's happening as we continue to move forward. Now, as we said earlier today, next week, the second week of August, we're going to be launching a couple of small group gatherings where we get the chance to spur one another on as we grow together. And you can find all the information for those online. If you want to be in the know, if you want to sign up for one, you can jump online as well and do so. We would love for you to see, to experience, to get to know why so many people in our church have come to believe and realize that life genuinely is better connected. Now, for those of you who regularly give so generously, I want to thank you. It's because of you that you've allowed us to create environments for community. You've allowed us to create environments for relationships, to spur one another on, to allow relationships to drive the fear and the frustration out of our pandemic life. I want to thank you. Thank you for being so generous, and thank you for loving well. North Tarrant, we are grateful to be in your corner. Next week, we'll be at the YMCA on August the 9th as we continue this series called Connect. And then the following week, whether it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, we look forward to seeing you in one of our small group gatherings. Y'all have a wonderful day, and we'll see you online this week. Bye.